What's up, Lost Boys? I'm here to do our post-draft power rankings and draft analysis video. Sorry I didn't get it to you last week, but I was out of town during the weekend, so I am getting it to you today. And I'm actually kind of glad that I didn't get it done last week because a lot of different things happened, including two humongous injuries last week. The first one was Denny. I'm sorry, Denny. Kelvin Benjamin went down. I was super high on Kelvin Benjamin. And that was your number one wideout, so it really, really hurts, and it actually did affect your ranking. And then the other one was Matt, and to be honest with you, Matt got hurt double time with both these injuries. Not only did he get hurt with the Kelvin Benjamin injury, because he does have Cam Newton, and that was his main red zone target. That was his main go-to guy. He had I think the third most targets last year of any wide receiver. So that hurts his quarterback. But then a few days later, we find out torn ACL, Jordy Nelson. Huge injury because in the draft, Matt took Jordy Nelson over guys like Odell Beckham and Julio Jones, which was already not a good decision. But the fact that he got hurt now, which is a freak thing, Jordy Nelson hasn't been hurt in his whole career really. It's just crazy bad luck. So super sorry, Matt. That does suck. But that is one thing about fantasy, is health is super important. But so let's first off talk a little bit about the draft. I'll promise I won't make this too long. But like I said in that email, doing these rankings was ridiculously hard. Everyone did such a good job at the draft. You can just see how much more people are studying and doing mocks and understanding who good players are and whatnot. Everyone had a really good team. Everyone has a really good team this year. The difference between 1 and 10, I know it's obviously the worst and the best, but it's not as bad as it's been. It's the closest it's been in the history of our league. So just want to give everyone props. They knew what they were doing this year. Also want to give everyone props for coming to the draft. I know some years, we'll have a couple people on Skype. This year the draft was so freaking fun. It was we got it through nice and smooth and fast. It was our fastest draft we've ever had this year. And then we all chilled at Tim's. Pat, you're definitely coming next year. No matter what, if I have to come to Chicago and drag you there by your penis head, you're coming. So anyway, all right, let's get to the power rankings and team-by-team draft analysis. First power ranking, we're going to start at 10 today. Team at number 10 is Justin. And it's not picking on Justin, I promise you. It's not just jumping on the Justin hate bandwagon, but to be honest with you, it wasn't even about the two tight ends that he picked. I actually thought in the draft those were two solid picks, especially because Jimmy Graham's looked great in the preseason as well. And Rob Gronkowski's going to be dominant, of course. I loved his first-round pick. Demaryius Thomas was an awesome pick. He has a chance to be the number one wideout again this year. So you can't really complain about those. He took Matthew Stafford a little early. I thought he was going to fall to maybe the 4th or the 5th round. But, quarterbacks were flying off the board at this point. They went a lot earlier than I thought they were going to go. And Justin snagged up Stafford, who's going to have a really big bounce back here this year in Detroit's offense. So those first 4 picks weren't it. It's after those first 4 picks that you really see his team completely drop off. That Colin Kaepernick pick in the 5th round was not a good pick at all. He's had flashes in the past of being a solid quarterback, but he's a guy that you could have picked up in the 7th, 8th round. And you just can't, you can't take Colin Kaepernick in the 5th round, bottom line. He did have a great pickup in Joseph Randle the round after that, but that's still without knowing how Joseph Randle's going to be. That's still without knowing what his workload is going to be like. He may split carries 60-40, 55-45. So that's a huge boomer bust pick. After that, though, that's what really put Justin at the 10th spot. I mean, you can't have Christopher Ivory, LeGarrette Blount as your starting tailbacks. I think LeGarrette Blount's out the first 2 games or the first game of the season with a suspension. To take Dorial Green-Beckham in the 10th round over so many guys, especially after he asked us while we were taking a break, hey, I'm thinking about taking this guy, and he was told, hey, you can wait to get him later. He just came in and took him. I think Justin, I think you kind of just lost focus. You stopped caring after that. But that is where, picks 7 through 13 are really what win you the draft. And you completely stopped caring after that. So I had to put you at the 10th spot. Your team is still a solid team. I mean, people are going to be afraid of you just because your tight ends are going to outscore their tight ends by maybe 40 points a week, which is crazy to think. But the drop-off in your wide receivers and your running backs is what puts you at the 10th spot. So I definitely think, you had a solid draft, but it just wasn't up to par. We'll move to number 9. Number 9, guys, we're going to go with Matt Romanowski. Matt, I actually had you a little bit higher in my power rankings earlier in the week last week, but I had to bump you down to 9. I know you said it. I know you think, it's just a wide receiver, but it's not just a wide receiver. It was your number 2 pick, and it was a guy that you were banking on to get you a lot of points every week. And the fact that you lose Jordy Nelson, it really, really hurts you. The Jamaal Charles pick, I loved it. I was hoping. I didn't know if Jamaal Charles was going to drop in the draft. I don't know why people were thinking he's not going to perform. You took him at 4, which I think is right around where he should be taken. I think it was a great pick. After that, though, man, Cam Newton, I think you took him way too early. I think, you're still hoping for Cam Newton from rookie year. And that's not how he is. That's just not who he is. So I think the Cam Newton pick was a little early. For example, you did take him in the 2nd round. I mentioned, Jordy Nelson was your 2nd pick, so I guess I can't say that. Jordy Nelson was your 3rd pick, but for you to take Cam Newton, I think you could have had Jamaal. You could have had another stud wideout and then came back around and got Jordy Nelson again if you wanted, or got a Ben Roethlisberger, I think. I had Ben Roethlisberger ranked ahead of Cam Newton. So there's a couple things you could have done differently with those first 3 picks, and you really have to nail those first 3 picks. But for all we know, the fact that one of those guys is completely out of the season really hurts your team. The Frank Gore pick, I know a lot of people are super high on him this year. I think he's going to be a solid player. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 player. But after that, your team just really falls off. It's like Justin, we talked about depth, and you have to have depth for you to have your wide receivers now, and you have starting Jarvis Landry. I mean, you lost Kevin White for the year, basically, too. Your team is already getting killed by the injury bug, and season hasn't even started yet. The fact that you have your 8th round pick and Todd Gurley on the bench, he might start the season, but they're not going to give him a heavy workload, is also another injury thing. Love the Travis Kelce pick. I think he's going to be a monster this year, but other than that, I just don't think you have enough firepower to keep up in the league this year. We'll see, though. You never know what can happen. Maybe you'll make some moves on the waivers list. Number 8, I have Titty on the Nippy, Big Daddy Jace. Jace had the end of the trade with me and him. I think the trade worked really well for both of us. His first 2 picks went exactly how he thought they were going to go. He got the best wide receiver in the draft, and he got the best running back in the draft. You can't ask for more than that with picks at 3 and 6. So I think he rocked it on those picks. It's kind of after those picks where I think, you just could see that Jace's depth, his knowledge and depth of the game really, really hurt his team. We all know, we always give Jace a hard time about mispronouncing names, but this year it wasn't just mispronouncing names. It was not knowing players. It was not taking the right guys. And after those first 2 picks, he went for Eli Manning. He wanted Eli Manning in the 4th round, and that, Eli Manning's actually going to have a really good year. And he saw the quarterbacks flying off the board, so it is someone that he wanted, and he took him. I can't really hate on that one. I didn't really like the 4th round pick, Eli Manning. He did get T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton's going to be a great, solid player. He's going to get a lot of yards. He's going to get about 7 to 9 touchdowns. He's really, really a solid value pick in the 4th round. Was probably the best wide receiver on the board. After that, though, Jace's team gets really, really, really murky, I guess. The fact that he took C.J. Spiller in the 5th round, I mean, you need a starting running back in the 5th round if you're taking a guy there. And C.J. Spiller's the backup. And yeah, I know it's on the Saints, and I know he's going to be the man. But Mr. Jace, who claims everyone's injury prone, I mean, C.J. Spiller's got to be top 5 injury prone guys in the league. And not only is he not a starter, but he's also injury prone. So he's sexy, he's flashy, he's fast, he's going to bust some great things out, but he's going to get hurt, and he's not going to start games, and Ingram's going to get goal line carries. And so it's a really tough spot to take C.J. Spiller in the 5th round, maybe in the 8th, maybe in the 7th, but the fact that he went, Spiller, Jonathan Stewart, Julian Edelman, with those 5th, 6th, and 7th, it really, really hurt the depth of his team because you took a backup running back, you took the Panthers running back, who's also ridiculously injury prone, and you took Julian Edelman for the Patriots, which he's had a solid year, so I can't really hurt him for that pick, but his team just doesn't have the depth that you want. For him to, he took Sam Bradford as his second quarterback. I mean, once again, I know that's his boy, but injury prone. Jace's team is hugely injury prone. Julius Thomas got hurt during the preseason. He might be ready for the season opener. Injury prone. So Jace didn't have the depth that he needed to start out with a healthy team, let alone a team that's going to get hurt. Bottom line, he's going to get hurt, and that's kind of why I put him down here at this ranking. We're going to move to number 7, guys. Number 7, we're going to go with Big Daddy Cass, the Nova Man. Cass, I really like your team. I think it's a solid team. It's going to scare the shit out of a lot of people. You surprised me, and I think you surprised everyone else when you busted out those 2 quarterbacks with those back-to-back picks. That was crazy. I didn't think Russell Wilson and Peyton Manning were going to go that fast, and you took them both at that spot. I was a little surprised about the Russell Wilson pick. I'm not going to lie. I think you should have taken Drew Brees over Russell Wilson, but it's just preference right there. I don't think people are going to hate on you about that. Russell Wilson can do things with his legs. He has Jimmy Graham this year. They might open the offense up a little more for him, so he might have a huge year. But after that, your team, specifically your running backs, that's kind of why you ended up at the 7th spot in my rankings. And like I said, once again, I'll go back. I had to rank them, but everyone is super close. So don't, it's not like you're 10 times worse than the people who are in the top 3 or something. But your running backs really are what left a sour taste in my mouth. Carlos Hyde, Mark Ingram, and I can't even remember off the top of my head. Carlos Hyde, Mark Ingram, and Lamar Miller. You took those guys back to back to back in the draft. And, I will give you props. You did get 3 starting running backs back to back to back. But Lamar Miller, I'm not a fan of Lamar Miller. He just doesn't do it for me. He's an okay running back. He's a decent running back. Mark Ingram, we just got done talking about C.J. Spiller. C.J. Spiller goes ahead of Mark Ingram. And like I just said, it was the wrong pick. But Mark Ingram's not going to be in there on 3rd downs the majority of the time. So for you to have your second running back, basically a 1st and 2nd down back, it really, really hurts your team. And then when you throw in Carlos Hyde, who knows what Carlos Hyde's going to be like? I mean, they're trying to get him rolling. He's averaging like 2.7 yards a carry. So, plus the 49ers are going to be god-awful this year. They're never going to be ahead. They're not really going to get a chance to run the ball very often, and their offensive line is destroyed. So, that's a really, really risky pick as well. Luckily, you got Devontae Adams. You were the lucky turd McGee that has Devontae Adams now that the Jordy Nelson is. But you're the worst guy to get Devontae Adams because you already have Randall Cobb. So, it's a pro and a con. Now you have the Packers' number 1 and number 2 wide receivers. But do you start the number 1 and number 2 wide receivers on the Packers over starting a number 1 on another team? I guess you could. I mean, your wide receiver core is pretty solid. You have Vincent Jackson, you have Jeremy Maclin, you have Charles Johnson. That's a decision you have to make. Do you start a Devontae Adams over Charles Johnson? But overall, I just think those quarterbacks are rocking. After that, at the time, you took a second-tier wide receiver in Randall Cobb. I know he's Aaron Rodgers' second tier, but he was still the second-string wide receiver. And he also backed it up after that with 3 straight running back picks that aren't stud running backs. For example, you took Lamar Miller over Melvin Gordon. Now, I know Lamar Miller is more experienced, but Melvin Gordon has much more of an upside than Lamar Miller. So I can't really hate on that pick too much comparing those two, but we'll see. After Cass at 7, we're going to go with Ryan at 6. Ryan, I really like your team a lot, especially your first two picks. I thought the Andrew Luck pick. For some reason, I thought you were going to go running back on that pick. I thought I had Eddie Lacy slotted in your spot in my mock, but you went with Andrew Luck, and I can't hate it. Andrew Luck is the man, and we know how quarterbacks are in our league. They're really, really important most of the time, and Andrew Luck is probably the best of all of them. So,
hey guys.
But yeah, back to the draft. That was Jean and Ryan.
All right, we'll be back.
All right, see ya. So, the C.J. Anderson pick was a really, really interesting pick because I had him going in the first round to Cass. I thought he was definitely going late first, really early second. The fact that he fell all the way to you nearly at the end of the second round is huge. He's probably the biggest wild card in the whole draft. He could be, Terrell Davis numbers like, or he could be Monte Ball from last year. You really never know. But the fact that you got this guy that late in that second round is a really, really good pick. After that, your team, it's just didn't do it for me. Those two guys actually are the reason, those two picks are the reason I have you ranked as high as 6. Because after that, I'm not a fan. Ben Roethlisberger, I did not like that pick. I thought he was overvalued. If you look at his game-to-game from last year, he had like 2 or 3 games where he threw close to 500 yards and like 4 or 5 touchdowns that just ballooned his stats. After that, those other games, he was not even a top 10 quarterback. Yeah, he will be throwing the ball a lot this year. He's throwing to Antonio Brown, of course, but he's not going to be the guy that's going to go out and get you 320 and 3 touchdowns weekly like those other top tier guys. Now, I know you didn't have a chance to get those top tier guys, but I think you could have taken a wide receiver there. You didn't have a wide receiver there, and you could have taken an Odell Beckham there, and you didn't take one there. So I think it's not terrible. You got awesome quarterbacks after the first 3 rounds. You don't have to worry about quarterbacks anymore. The Brandon Cooks pick in the 4th round, I think that's exactly where he should have went. I think it was a solid value pick. In the preseason, he's looking awesome. Drew Brees has got to throw to someone. Brandon Cooks is a guy, if some people are taking him in the 3rd, late 2nd, because they think he's going to be awesome. You got him in the 4th, in the middle of the 4th. So can't complain about the Brandon Cooks pick. But after that, Jordan Matthews, we have no idea how the Eagles' offense is going to be. It's been awesome. It's been awesome in the past, but how's Bradford going to do? Is Bradford even going to stay healthy? They're already complaining. People are going after his knees. Yada, 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 yada. Jordan Matthews is a monster, but will he perform like a 5th-round pick, like a number 2 wide receiver? Andre Johnson's an old man, and he just, I just don't see it this year. I know people think, he's got luck thrown to him. That's great, but it's never been about who's he had thrown to him. It's about whether he can stay on the field the last 3 years. We'll see if he can stay on the field again this last 3 years. Your running backs really, really kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. The fact that you have Amir Abdullah as your 2nd running back. He's a rookie. That's a backup right now to Joique Bell. And you can't really have a backup rookie as your starting running back. So that really hurt your team. I think Andrew Luck, I think C.J. Anderson, and I think Random Weeks, Ben Roethlisberger are going to single-handedly with those 3 guys win you games. But after that, your team is very murky. So that's kind of why you're at 6. At number 5, we have me. We have Gigi Well Played. My team has a lot of top-tier talent. I went with LaShawn McCoy with my first pick. I'm really high on him this year. He's still a ridiculously talented guy. He has the shake-and-bake moves. But the main thing is he's going to have a lot of volume this year. The Bills are going to run a lot. He's their main guy. After that, I went Julio and Odell back-to-back. Really solid team. Then I ended up with the Justin Forsett. I had him targeted as one of my main guys. I think he's going to be a monster this year with Trestman coming in. Going to be Matt Forte 2.0. He's going to catch a lot of balls too. So I like those picks. I also like Melvin Gordon, Sammy Watkins. I don't know why people were so down on Sammy Watkins. The guy's a freak. He was injured all last year. I know he doesn't have anyone to throw to him. But I mean, if someone like DeAndre Hopkins can go as high as he did with no one thrown to him, and someone like Sammy Watkins can fall as far as he did, Sammy Watkins is a better wide receiver than DeAndre Hopkins 7 days of the week. So that kind of confused. So I was glad to take him. But after that, You know, when you rock Joe Flacco and Jameis Winston as your starting quarterbacks, that's not the best starting quarterback combo. You know, I actually did have Jameis Winston targeted as a guy I wanted to grab late in the draft. I think he's going to be really good this year. He has 2 monster wide receivers. They're going to be behind. They're going to pass a lot. So I'm not too down on him as most people are, but I totally see how people are down on him. The main reason I have myself at 5 is not necessarily because I don't like a lot of my team. Like I said, every team's really close rated. It's the fact that I'm not a fan of doing this with my team, but I have a lot of players on the same teams. And my team really boils down to 2 teams being successful, the Buffalo Bills offense and the Baltimore Ravens offense being successful. And if those 2 teams take dumps, specifically the Buffalo Bills, which is really scary, then my team kind of takes a dump. And, you know, I may have 4 or 5 guys from the top 25 from last year, but this isn't last year. So, you know, the talent looks pretty good. The quarterbacks look really weak. You know, the top 2 talent on my team looks great, but when you have shitty quarterbacks and you have a lot of guys from the same teams, it is turdy. So that's kind of why I thought my team was 5th ranked, you know, middle of the row. We'll see what it is. After me at 5, we're going to go to Denny. Denny. The Kelvin Benjamin, man, it hit you hard because I had you rated, I mean, you're 4. So the playoffs started, you're there. And I had you rated higher than that before the Kelvin Benjamin injury. Before that, I mean, I still love your team, man. You got Le'Veon Bell at 8. You got Le'Veon Bell at 8, which is, you know, would have been the first pick, I think. Maybe the first pick, definitely the first running back pick in the draft if he didn't have the 2-game suspension. So you got him at 8. That's an awesome pick. Then you followed up with Matt Forte. I was down on Matt Forte this year. I think, you know, if you take out the 100 catches he had last year, he still has an okay year. But even if he drops a lot of catches for a running back is 55, 60. So if he drops 40 catches, I mean, that's a lot of balls he's missing. But it's still Matt Forte. He's still going to do great. The Bears are still going to be, you know, pounding him the ball a lot. So I think that was a solid value pick, you know, in the 2nd round. After that, you followed it with Matty Ice. I think Matty Ice is going to be a great fantasy quarterback this year. He's going to be throwing for 330 yards. They're going to be throwing off the ball a lot. Julio's healthy. They still got Roddy White. They have Tevin Coleman this year to kind of keep teams honest and in the box. So I think it was a great pick. And also Alfred Morris. I'm super high on Alfred Morris this year. The guy's secretly been like the most consistent guy since his rookie year after like Marshawn Lynch, I think. You know, he's had like 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns every single year, and he just slowly sneaks along. It's because he doesn't get those fancy games because freaking Roy Halou was taking a lot of his stuff. Roy Halou's not there anymore. I think Danny grabbed a super really good value guy in Alfred Morris. Unfortunately, after the Alfred Morris, he took Kelvin Benjamin, and he was your number 1 wideout. And he was an awesome number 1 wideout. I really was high on Kelvin Benjamin. I thought he was going to be the man. And the fact that he's out this year really, really hurt your team. Because after that, I mean, the fact that you have Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers as your starting quarterbacks. Then you have Le'Veon Bell, Matt Forte as your starting running backs. Then you had Kelvin Benjamin. You had Deshaun Jackson. You know, you had Torrey Smith. You had Mike Wallace. You had 4 starting wide receivers in your 3 slots in your flex. You know, a lot of teams can't say they have 4 number 1s in those positions. And you had that when you also throw in those 3 stud running backs. I mean, Le'Veon Bell, Matt Forte, Alfred Morris, questionably pretty much the best running back combo in the league. So if Benjamin didn't get hurt, I had you a lot higher, but I have to put you at 4 because your wide receiver core really took a knock with that injury. Number 3, guys, we are going with Patty Fathead. Lugnut Fixed It, a.k.a. the Apex Predator. And Pat will be RKO some people this year. His team is really, really good. I have him ranked number 3. He made a great pick with Eddie Lacy. Somehow Eddie Lacy fell to 7. I guess it makes sense. I didn't mind the picks ahead of him. So, you know, it just the way the cookie crumbled. But Eddie Lacy, amazing pick at 7. He came back around. Got Drew Brees. You know, Drew Brees went off the board, or a couple quarterbacks went off the board. At that point, Drew Brees was the 5th quarterback to go off the board. Drew Brees, a 5th quarterback? You guys are nuts. But Pat snagged him up. He knew what he was doing. Great pick right there. I didn't like the Jeremy Hill pick. It was a great value pick, so I can't say that. Just Jeremy Hill as a player, I'm not I'm not bought in yet. We'll see. You could shove it right down my throat this year, kind of like Antonio Brown shoved it down my throat last year. I might definitely be wrong on that one. But the value of the pick was awesome. To get him in the third round, which a lot of people had him as a first round, late first round, early second round pick, Pat definitely hit the jackpot there. Love the Tony Romo pick, man. Cowboys throw a lot, and you throw it up to Dez Bryant. The thing about the Cowboys is great. The thing about Tony Romo is great is Cowboys are one of the few teams in the league that will throw the ball on first and goal from the 1 or the 2. They'll throw it up to Dez, and he'll come down with it. And Tony will cash in 4 easy points. So Tony Romo, Drew Brees, they're going to rake it in. They're going to win him some games by himself. I think those are 2 awesome picks, and he got him at great value. After that, I'm not really a fan of DeAndre Hopkins. I mentioned him earlier, comparing him to Sammy Watkins. I would have rather taken Sammy Watkins there, but DeAndre Hopkins, he had some. He's kind of like the wide receiver version of Ben Roethlisberger. He had some monster games last year. Monster games. Really inflated his stats. Really did. He wasn't really consistent throughout the year. I know a lot of people think he's gonna even bust through even more this year, but they haven't even named a starting quarterback. Ryan Mallett, Ryan Hoyer. Who knows who the hell's it gonna be? But either way, number 1 wide receiver, I really like Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen went after him. He took him. It's a solid pick. I think he's going to blow up. Phillip Rivers is going to be targeting him a lot more. He got T.Y. Yeats in his flex. T.Y. Yeats, he's a Jacksonville guy, which is already a knock on him, and he's a rookie. He's going to probably start for him, so that's good. But the fact that he's starting 2 Jacksonville guys in Allen Robinson and T.Y. Yeats really kind of counteracts, because let's be real, how many points are the Jags going to score this year? But the fact that those first 4 guys are so strong, I think one of the best picks in the entire draft amongst everyone was the Marquise Colston pick. Pat got him in the 12th round. To get Marquise Colston in the 12th round, no Jimmy Graham anymore, no Kenny Stills. Marquise Colston is clearly the number 2 wide receiver in New Orleans, and Drew Brees is going to throw for over 4,000 yards. We know that. And it's not all going to Brandon Cooks. It's not all going to C.J. Spiller or Mark Ingram. So Colston's going to get 1,200 or 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns. And for an 11th or 12th round pick, that's ridiculously good. So, Pat's team does have some rookies. It has some young guys. But overall, Pat's talent is undeniable. And he's going to be a force to be reckoned with this year if he stays healthy. All right. Number 2, I have the bank. Who would have thunk it that Tim ends up number 2 in my rankings after all the shit that we talked on him and how terrible he's been the last few years? But I actually really, really like his team. I think he made the right pick at number 1. We kind of knew he was going to go consistent and quarterback there. I had AP as my number 1 player overall on my board. So if I had the number 1 pick, I would have taken AP. But quarterback-wise, how can you not go with Aaron Rodgers if you're going quarterback? I think he's the man. He's the best player in the NFL. He's always going to be healthy. He's a stud. So Tim definitely made the right pick with the first pick. Came back around, snagged Megatron with that pick. Megatron getting him basically in the end of the second, early third. You would never have thought you could have done that in the past years, and Tim got him. Followed up with DeMarco Murray, the number 1 fantasy player in the year last year. And DeMarco Murray falls to him in the 3rd round. I know he moved to the Eagles. He might split some carries with Ryan Matthews. But still, DeMarco's their number 1 guy. They traded for him. If he stays healthy, that's the big if. Last year was his first year staying healthy. We'll see if he can repeat. But if he stays healthy, DeMarco Murray is going to be a monster in Philly's thing. And Tim got him then. Then snags Emmanuel Sanders in the end of the 4th. Then you go to the 5th round, which he made the big splash taking Tommy B. Tommy B, it's looking like more and more that they're going to settle, and the suspension is going to be reduced to probably 1 or 2 games. And that puts Tim at Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Calvin Johnson, DeMarco Murray, Emmanuel Sanders, first 5 players on his team. I don't know if any other team really can match those first 5 players. So it really, really, really shows you the strength of his team. After that, his team does get a little shady. He has Victor Cruz, which is the number 2 wideout for the Giants. He's coming off that surgery, though, so we'll see how good he does. Andre Ellington, super boomer bust, picked him up in the 6th round. We'll see about him if he stays healthy. If he can. The first 6 weeks of the season, I think Andre Ellington's going to be great, and then he might wear down. He's a tiny guy, but he's a really, really, really speedy, good player. We got Roddy White. I mentioned Matt Ryan earlier. So Tim's team overall, that's why I have him at number 2. He's going to be a scary, scary team to mess with, especially after Tom Brady comes back. When you're looking at his team and you match each guy to your quarterback to his quarterback, your wide receiver to his running back or wide receiver, then you realize, holy crap, most of his positions beat my positions, and that's never what you want to see. So Tim's team is really solid. Number 1, I think you guys can make the decision of who number 1 is by process of elimination. Cal freaking Zone. Cal Zone. Number 1 in my rankings. Wow, wow, wow. Cal, how you have improved is really insane, man. You definitely are knowing your stuff, and I love your team. I think it's the best team in the league. We'll see how it matches up whenever the season starts, but you made the right pick in your first round by taking Marshawn. You had the 5th pick. You could have taken Eddie Lacy. That would have been the other guy I think you maybe could have went. But Marshawn is beast mode. He's Seattle's main runner. Seattle runs the ball. He never gets hurt. He's Mr. Consistency. He's only 29 years old. He's not it's Marshawn Lynch. So you know what you're going to get from Marshawn. I think that was a great pick. But it was the picks after that put you at the number 1 spot. The fact that you followed it up with a Dez Bryant, after that, and then you followed it up with A.J. Green after that, then you followed up with Mike Evans after that. A lot of people try the wide receiver strategy, and they load up on stud wide receivers every year. The problem is they don't start that strategy with a Marshawn Lynch. You went Marshawn, you went the hulking, steady running back, and you followed up with 3 studs, not 3 okay wide receivers, not Emmanuel Sanders and Rander Cobbs. No, 3 number 1s who are clearly going to get a lot of touches this year. I don't really know how you did it, but you got all 3 of those guys. And those guys are scary with Marshawn Lynch. Then you got Ryan Tannehill, which a lot of people are on. He has top 10 potential. We'll see how he does. They're going to throw a lot this year. They really are. They got Devontae Parker in the draft when he comes back healthy. They're going to throw a lot. Latavius Murray, he's a Raiders guy, so I'm not too high on him, but he's a freak athlete. He's looked great in the preseason. If he stays healthy, he's going to be a monster this year. You took Martellus Bennett a little high. You do got Rashard Jennings. He's the Giants' number 1 running back. He looked good when he stays healthy. There's a lot of when people stay healthy this year in the draft. That's going to be a big thing. But your 10th round pick was Andy Dalton. That was a great pick because 2 years ago Andy Dalton was great and he fell because of how bad he was last year. You can't be that bad 2 years in a row. And he's going to come back. He's going to be, they got Jeremy Hill the whole year this year, so teams have to respect the run. And Andy Dalton's going to light him up. And you have A.J. Green, so you're going to see that combo a lot. Overall, I just really, really, really liked your team. I know we don't talk about defense as much, but you got Seattle too. You got the number 1 defense. So when you look at your team just in general, your wide receivers scare the shit out of people. You have Marshawn Lynch, and then you throw in Tannehill and Andy Dalton. Just overall, solid team. You got Martellus Bennett, who has a chance to be top 5 tight end. Your flex positions are going to be solid players as well. I'm not too high on Martavius Bryant. That's the one pick that I'm not really that high on, but all your other picks had great value. They're solid players. Your team has a lot of upside as well as consistency. So that's kind of why I had you at the number 1 spot. So that's going to do it today, guys. 33 minutes. Sorry it took that long. But if you think about it, it's only about 3 minutes per team. That's my rankings. Hope everyone liked the video. Let me know what you guys thought. And I will talk to you guys soon. See ya.